This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions out of Manning, South Carolina. Sincerely thanking everyone for tuning in once again to part 4 of Ego, the Beast Within, entitled I Will Send You Elijah, Making War with the Beast. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to each part of this commentary, and I hope that something in it has been beneficial to you or to someone that you love. Again, we want to try to remind everyone to keep in mind that each one of these commentaries were designed for us to take a look within ourselves. There is some esoteric knowledge involved with it. There are many ways that this story can be told, and we were trying, by God's permission, to tell it in the best way we knew how and the best way we were given permission to tell it. So, God willing, you will go back to part 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Ego, the Beast Within. If you would like to download it, you can download the audio files from our personal website, the 19report.weebly.com. You can also get it off of Ustream, and we also post up the live video feeds to YouTube at our website, Brother Johnny, on YouTube. So we're hoping everyone is actually learning something of value from the commentaries. They are very, very important. All you have to do is to look into them a little bit more. Today we want to go into part 4 entitled Ego, the Beast Within, I Will Send You Elijah. Now we stopped on part 3 with in the book of Revelations, where the serpent of Genesis has now been morphed into a dragon, and this dragon was preparing himself to make war with God. And we're in heaven now. We're in the book of Revelations, or we're on an island now. We're in the mind, heart, and spirit of man now. And in that place of serenity, or that place of evil, this satanic thought is beginning to try and project as much negative into the human being as he can, so as to sway us towards becoming satanic ourselves. So in that battle, Satan is taking his last stand. In that battle, God is proving to man, to woman, to Satan that he is indeed the all-wise. And we call that battle the War of Armageddon, if you will. But prior to that battle, in the book of Malachi, God, after giving a punishment to quote-unquote Adam and Eve, or to man, he sends them prophet after messenger after prophet to try to sway them back to the desire to be on the straight path. And again, we are talking about the ego that is within all of us. We are talking about the 3 brains that we talked about in one of the commentaries: the mind, the heart, and the sexual center. If you haven't listened to these commentaries, I would sincerely hope that you would go back so that you can understand where we are at this point in the commentary. So now we stopped in Revelations 14, 1 and 4, and I want to read that of the King James Version of the Bible. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their forehead. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harps harping with their harps, of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as if it were a new song before the throne. And before the 4 beasts, there are 4 of them, and the elders, there are 24 of them, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Now, if you remember in part 1, 2, and 3, we talked about the earth and the redemptive qualities of the mind, the heart, and the sexual organs, or just the redemptive qualities of thought. Again, we are talking about man taking responsibility for himself. So we're talking about these redemptive qualities of man and how he can prove to God that I do want to come back to that great place that we were rejected from because of our thinking. Now, in Revelations 4 and 3, it's 14 and 3, it says, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the 4 beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the and 4,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Now, the definition of redeemed is to compensate for the faults or bad aspects of something. A disappointed debate redeemed by an outstanding speech. To do something that compensates for poor past performance or behavior. So someone has to be a redeemer for the poor qualities, the poor actions, the poor judgments that man has made since his being created by God himself. Now, a lot of us say, my Redeemer lives, my Redeemer delivered me or rescued me, and we associate that redemptive quality with one person in the Bible, and that one person is Jesus the Christ. And in associating that with Christ, you are absolutely right. But when we read the scriptures, we want to make sure that by God's permission, we read it in its entirety. We can tell if the translator of the scripture may have mistranslated by mistake, may have mistranslated by intent, but did he mistranslate, or are we just reading into the scriptures what we want to see? Now, Jesus Christ is indeed the Redeemer. As we said before, Jesus Christ, God would not be so low down of a great entity to put his son in a earth to die for the sins of a man who has no desire to change his sinful ways. We are the reflection of those men and women who have no desire to change our sinful ways. So what happens with us is that every sin we want to commit, we say, Jesus died for our sins, I'm covered for that, as we talked about in prior commentaries. Or we go back to the Bible and misquote, as we said in the Quran, God made allegories and parables. And those of us who have wicked thoughts in mind use those parables and allegories in a negative way. So we say it's not what goes into a man, into the body, which defileth the man, but what comes out of his mouth. And that doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it. If you drink alcohol, you're defiling your body. You're destroying your organs. If you smoke crack cocaine, you're defiling your body. So it is what goes into a man. When you misinterpret that, you make it sound as if though you can do anything you want to do and not be held accountable. And these are the people that are in this earth. And we have the audacity to say that God would put a man in this earth, right, to die for our sins. And they are sins that we have no desire to stop doing. So it's a contradictory of thought in that Jesus could not die for us if we had no desire to do better. So Christ says in the Bible, he says, one will come after me who will teach you the knowledge of all things. In other words, he's saying, I'm not the only one. There will be one after me who will teach you more than I can teach you. And perhaps in his teaching, he will be able to cause each individual to reflect on themselves in their mind, in their heart, in their sexual actions. And perhaps by God's permission, more of us will be saved. In this, actually, we are in the end times now. And these things have to be addressed to the internal person. Not, you did this to me, you did this to me, you did this to me. But God, how can I help myself to do better today than I did yesterday, and not hold anyone accountable for what I'm doing with the exception of myself, and ask for the mercy and grace of God in my attempt to do better by myself. So it says in 4, these are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. We're in Revelations 14 and 4. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb wheresoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruit unto God and to the Lamb. So we talked about the 144,000 in the book of Revelation. And many of us say only 144,000 people will be saved in the last day. But the most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that 144,000 is in actuality the first fruit who will accept the teaching from the Lamb, who has been taught directly by God to interject a thought into the wicked wall or the wicked shield that we have around us, and give us an opportunity to make an intelligent decision as to which side we want to give our mind, our heart, and our soul. So the Lamb is able to do this. And Jesus said, one will come after me who will have the ability to teach you the meaning and knowledge and wisdom of all things. Our job is to listen to those things and decide whether we accept or reject them. So Revelations 14:4 talks about those who are not defiled with the woman. It calls them virgins. But it's not just talking about men not being defiled of a woman. It's referring to those who once gave into the low desire of themselves. But after hearing the sweet sound or the sweet life-giving words from the Lamb, the truth of who we are, what our job is as a people, and how we can go about doing those things. So in the Revelations, it talks about the harper harping, or the sweet sounds of the harp, the sounds of truth going into the minds, hearts, and spirits of those who desired so much for truth. I was looking at Roots, Alex Haley's documentary of Roots, and how Kunta Kinte always had a desire in his heart to return to himself, to his home, and he always called on Allah. And how Fanta, or the queen that was also taken from Africa, had given up on the idea of Allah, given up on the idea that there was any God to come and save them. So she said, it's one thing that I learned, that I want to live. And in order for me to live, I have to adapt to the ways of the man who stole me. I have to adapt to the evil ways of the Satan who is now interjecting thoughts into my straight path. But Kunta Kinte said that he was going to continue to trust in Allah and continue with the hope, continue with the desire, continue with that pleading to God to help him get back to where he wanted to be and where we should want to be. We're talking about the ego, the beast within, and how the ego has separated us from the very idea, thought, mind, spirit of God, and how we have to learn how to not murder the ego, but disintegrate the ego and allow God's presence to be reflected, or not so much reflected, but to shine in our faces, that we will see the true self and be able to relate to God as we once did. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions out of Manning, South Carolina. Sincerely hoping that this information will be shared. Again, I know people don't like to listen to commentary if it's not a lot of hooping and hollering in it, some drum beats and all that good stuff. But this is the way that I was commanded to tell it. This is the way I was asked by some to tell it. And this is the way I'm trying to share this information by God's permission, in hopes that many will understand what's being said and begin to look within ourselves to see if we have the ability to help ourselves. Now, this 144,000 is referring to those who have accepted the word from the Lamb. And we heard the words of the Lamb, and we have repented of our sins and are now counted among those who are, quote unquote, the first fruit, or the first to hear and understand and obey the words of God. We were not free of sin, those of us who accepted that truth in the beginning, but we are now redeemed from among men. And we were the first fruit redeemed from the earth, redeemed from the very thought of ourselves, redeemed from being that person that the ego says, this is who you are. The first of the 144,000 having the Father's name were written on their foreheads, which means that they were no longer ruled by the whispering of Satan, because they found favor in Allah, in God. They were born again as required by the words of Jesus Christ himself. Lest a man be born again, he has to pick up his cross, he has to deny himself, he has to follow me. And in following Jesus Christ, you are actually beginning to go upward in the Spirit of God in the proper manner, and you will begin to understand what it is that God is telling you, as opposed to trying to interpret it yourself and making big mistakes along the way. In the book of Genesis, the serpent attacked the feminine mind of man, the second self of God, which is the woe man. He went after the woman, not because the woman is weak, but because of her strength. Satan knew that if he could control the mind, body, and spirit of the woman, it would be beneficial for him to use her to tempt or to entice the man and lead him into rebellion against his own nature. And his own nature is that nature of God. For I and God, I and my Father are one. So woman's strength was used in the garden to reverse the very nature of God in man and turn him, instead of a God, woman's nature was used to turn the God into a dog. Now in 2013, man calls his woman a bitch, which is a female dog who opens her legs to gain control over other dogs or over other fallen gods. She uses her feminine nature to control situations, to entice the male dog or the devil into doing just about whatever she wants him to do. And in 2013, you can bear my witness that if a woman ain't swinging on a pole, even if she is in a office setting, she's got her cleavage showing, big juicy lips, eyelashes batting at you, strong cologne, strong perfumes. She's using her feminine God-given nature to attract man in a worldly fashion. This is what has happened to the woman because she submitted to the whispering of the serpent. This woman that we see before us again is not the woman of God, but this is the worldly woman who is using the name of God to shield all the dirt and the desires and the egotistical thoughts that is in not only her mind, but in the mind of the man. Excuse me. And I hope no one takes offense to this, but this is the way it has to be told. Man is first, and out of man, God brought the woman. He couldn't have brought the woman out of the man if the man didn't have a feminine quality already in him. So this feminine quality of man that was attacked by Satan is what we're talking about. But this feminine quality of man had to be extracted from him so that he could see it in front of himself, just as we talked about prior, that Satan had to be extracted from the man so that he could see Satan in front of himself. So all of these things, God, woman, man, devil, Satan, all are being extracted from the original man so that he can see these qualities of himself before his face, and either he can choose to reject these qualities or either he can choose to accept these qualities. So Elijah said that the last trick that Elijah Muhammad said that the last trick that Satan would try to get over on the righteous is to give us his woman. Now the question is, what woman can Satan give us? What woman can he give us to be used as a trick? What woman does he control? Satan controls the mind of the woman who was expelled from the Garden of Eden. So it is not the woman of God that Satan controls. She is the woman of this world. She has been given power by Satan to usurp authority over the man. And in doing so, she is helping to prolong the suffering and the ignorant masses of the people. And I want you to keep in mind, women, I am not talking about you the problem, you the reason. I'm talking about that feminine quality that was extracted from the man and put in front of his face that was supposed to be utilized to help him make his way back to God. And in actuality, it is doing just as God intended. It is helping us to see that we've made many mental, spiritual, and physical mistakes that we have to try and correct by God's permission, but we can only do it with God's help. So this woman, she's helping to prolong the suffering of the ignorant masses of the people. She has gone contrary to God's instructions in the Garden of Eden, which was for her to be a helpmeet to the man. And in her helping the man meet his obligation to God, they both would be found pleasing in the eyes of God. Thus, they would be allowed to go back into the Garden of Eden and be at one with the Creator. Now, she is going contrary to the instructions written also in 1 Timothy, in Timothy 2, 9 through 15. And these instructions are the reversal, as we talked about once before in one part of the commentary. This world is the reverse of the God world that God is going to bring into existence, and he is doing that as we speak. But in Timothy 2, 9 through 15, it reads, in like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefaced with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broided hair or gold or pearls or costly array. God is saying to the woman, be modest. God is saying to the man with the feminine quality, be modest in your thinking. Man is not modest in his thinking, therefore a woman is not modest in her doing. So God says, don't braid your hair with these gold and pearl beads. Not that you can't do that, but don't be so flashy in your femininity that you allow a man to see what God has adorned you with. Your breast, your butt, your lips, your eyes. Shield these things. It says, don't use your costly array, but which becometh women professing godliness with good works. If you wish to be those who profess to be godly, then your works have to prove that. And your works have to prove that in a way that most of us don't understand. So in 11 it says, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. Now you're going to get angry with that. You're going to get angry with a man saying, let the woman learn in silence. But if that woman is inside of man and that woman has been rebellious to the nature of God, then shouldn't that woman inside of man hush and listen to the very thoughts and ideas of God that will help that woman to come back into a oneness with God, as opposed to being expelled from the Garden of Eden? We're talking about the internal woman in man, and we're talking about the external woman that was extracted from man's spirit in order to be a manifestation of the physical spirit of God himself. So the strength in this woman is so magnificent in her purity. But the strength of this woman has been diluted because we have mixed truth with falsehood. So yes, I'm in a power position, woman. Yes, I'm in a church, woman, but my nails are so long. My lashes are batting. My butt is sticking out of my dress because it's so tight. My breasts have cleavage showing. My hat is so big. So I'm distracting the man from what God has intended for him to do. So I am no longer a helpmeet to the man, but I am a hindrance to the man and a hindrance to myself. So let the woman learn in silence. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be silent. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgressions. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness with sobriety. Now, this says that the woman rebelled against God. And this is true. The feminine side of man rebelled against God. And in Timothy 9, 2 Timothy 9 through 15, it is saying, for Adam was the first formed, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. Adam and Eve are one. So if the woman is deceived, the man is deceived. If the husband is in trouble, the wife is supposed to be in trouble. If the wife is in trouble, the husband is in trouble. And if the husband and wife are in trouble, then the children are in trouble. So we have to come together collectively in thought, mind, thought, heart, thought, spirit, and say there has to be some way we can come back to a oneness with God in sobriety. Why in sobriety? What is it about being sober when you think that will help you to be clearer in your thought? Sobriety, according to Wikipedia, is the condition of not having any measurable level or effects from mood-altering drugs. What is the mood-altering drug that controls the woman in today's society? The mood-altering drug that controls the feminine side of men, which is being extracted from the man, and he's reflecting himself as a homosexual. He's reflecting himself as a transgender. He's reflecting himself as effeminate. He's feminine acting, but he's still a man. That quality that is making us drunk is the power and control. We want things. We want to be seen. We want to be noticed. We want money. So we want power and control. So Satan gives the woman power and control in every aspect of life, and she becomes drunk with the idea of not needing anyone but herself. That power produces chemicals in the body that can deeply affect the overall thought process of the woman. We're talking about the woman inside of man, and we're talking about the woman outside of man. And if she is not protected in that euphoric state of mind, she can easily be controlled. So when the man wants attention, you know how the hip hop artists say, snitching is a feminine trait, or complaining is feminine, or crying is feminine. When that feminine quality is plucked apart from the man, but is still inside of the man, then that feminine quality becomes dominant in the man. So the man begins to reflect femininity. You have big muscular men who act feminine, effeminate. You have big muscular men with, manicured nails and, girl, please, child. Then lowered made their voices higher to reflect the image of a non-threatening male. So now in the hip hop world, in the gospel world, men falling down on men, women falling down on women. And you hear women say, I don't need no man, because she has power and control given to her by Satan. We're talking about ego, the beast within. And this is part 4. I will send you Elijah. How to control that beast within. We talked about how God said he will send us Elijah, and Elijah will do something. And we're going to find out what Elijah is capable of doing. And one day we'll talk about who Elijah is. So we're talking about the sobriety. We are drunk with the idea of having things. We are drunk with power. We are drunk with the desire to want power. We are drunk with the illusionary world that says when you got this, you somebody. So we are fighting to get these things. And the ego is taking over. The mind, the heart, the spirit. The heart is dead. The woman could care less about a man in most cases. I just need you on my arm to get higher where I want to go. Likewise with the man. He could care less about a woman. So Eve was unprotected in the garden. The man didn't pay attention to the feminine side of himself. He left it unguarded. So when Satan began to whisper to the feminine side of man, the feminine side listened. So she listened and acted upon the serpent's suggestion because her ego got in the way of clear thought. And the male today is so egotistical. He shoots, he kills, he murders, he cheats, he swindles, he does whatever he feels he's big and bad enough to do in order to get where he wants, and will never feel remorse or guilt for his wrongdoings because he has justified himself by saying, this is who I am. I got to do what I got to do. The world is rough. You're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, as we said before. So she, the woman, didn't consult with the man. Man didn't consult with the other side of himself. Woman didn't consult with the other side of herself. And she didn't consult with God about her actions. I hope you're listening very close to what's being said, because everything that's being said is talking about the internal battle that we are struggling with, and is also talking about the external battle that we're struggling with simultaneously. So you can see both on the same level and be able to identify, pray for assistance, and help God help yourself, as I have to do. Because as I said before, everything that I talk about is something that I too am going through, learning from. As I'm talking to you, I'm learning as I go, because as I said, the teleprompter is up, but a lot of the information is coming directly from heart, mind, and spirit. So she didn't consult with the man, and she didn't consult with God about her actions. She, the woman, usurped authority in the church. So the church, we talked about, the temple was the body of man. Now the man is here, the woman is in the church, but the woman usurped authority in the church and took it upon herself, or took it upon the thought of the feminine side of self, to say, I'm going to listen to the whispering of the serpent. Not only am I going to listen to it, but I'm going to act on it. So she usurped authority, which was something that we were not supposed to do as a woman. And now the pressure of life that are meant for man to handle, by his connection with God, the woman has taken them onto herself. The woman is weighing more than herself. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that The Master Farad Muhammad told his wife, Sister Clara Muhammad, I don't want to ever catch you weighing more than yourself. Don't take on anything that you're not capable of handling. The only way that the female, black in particular, are handling this world at this time is because Satan is holding you up. Satan is giving you the loan. Satan is giving you the position. Satan is telling you you are great. Satan is telling you you can do it. Your man, the God, the other side of you is in the street. The other side of you is at home. The other side of you, black woman, is broken into pieces, can do nothing for himself. So you don't even trust him because you don't see anything in him that can put him above where Satan has put you. So your trust is not in the God, even in the church. Your trust is in the world. So I get a certificate that says I'm a preacher. I'll let the congregation say I'm this or that. But I can't rely on this man. He just here with me, but he has nothing in himself that I see of God. We're talking about ego, the beast within. And we're talking about how Satan separated man from God, man from woman, and woman from child, and why we are in the condition that we are in at this point in 2013. So the woman is weighing more than herself. She can't handle the thought process. What is God doing? Why is he doing it? You can't handle it. So Satan comes in and makes a book that you can read that justifies everything that you do. And you, as we said earlier, didn't have sense enough to question Satan. You just did it. And so now Satan is in control. You're battling with your man because he ain't got nothing. And if he got it, he working for Satan. So everybody is on Satan's list, for lack of a better term. We're in a world that is not the world that God intended for us to be in. We accepted it. We have built the life in it, and we don't want to let it go. As in part 3, we said, if we can't take Satan into heaven with us, we don't want to go. So the woman is weighing more than herself. And she's broken under the pressure of life. But to her, she is successful. So we are weighing more than ourselves, men and women. We're talking about the woman that is inside of the man has already broken under the pressure. So that's that femininity that's coming out of you that says, I just be this. And I can get anything I want, and I can do it in the name of Jesus because he died for my sins. We justify evil. You can take it or leave it, but it is what it is. And we're becoming more feminine than anything. We can't produce nothing in femininity because God is a masculine God that needs assistance from the feminine side of himself in order to become, like the scripture says, we are all God's children of the Most High God. And so this female that we see before us, this black woman, she's broken. She don't even know she's broken. She's successful. So she thinks, I gotta be right. But she is a slave to Satan. And she doesn't even know it. I'm saying it. The black woman is a slave to the satanic thoughts of this world and doesn't even know it. From the church to the street, it's the same thing. When a worldly woman looks into the mirror, a worldly woman, when she looks into the mirror, she has no idea what she's looking at because her entire self-image is an illusion. And we can prove it. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? You see a fake face, makeup, lipstick. You see fake hair. You see fake nails. You see fake lashes, fake eyes, fake breasts, fake butt, fake walk, fake talk, fake thoughts. The key to our success as a people, our nearness to God, has all been destroyed because the woman has accepted this illusionary world that has been placed before her. And throughout the scripture, God is saying, come out of her, come out of her, come out of her. If you don't come out, I will destroy you. And the key to any nation is the woman. And if the woman is not in her right mind, if the woman can't believe in her man to do for her what needs to be done as a man, then who's she going to turn to? Who are you turning to? Your definition of a man is money. Your definition of a man is strength. Your definition of a man is not one who works hard to do for you and his family. You already put an amount on it. You put a stamp on it based on what the world says it should be. So the serpent is constantly whispering, and good men are being broken into nothing. Good men are being made to be lapdogs for women in power, because we apparently don't have enough to satisfy what the woman of this day says is good. Our image of good is Oprah. Our image of good is Michelle Obama. Our image of good is Beyonce. Our image of good is not those who stay at home and raise their children, feed and cook for them, teach them. Our image is illusionary. Everything is fake. We're talking about the ego and why we're in the condition that we're in. This is the last part of this commentary entitled, I Will Send You Elijah. And what I'm talking to you about today, by God's permission, is what this Elijah has come with and what he has taught us. Everything that is coming out of my mouth came from that Elijah that was sent to do a job. And he is doing that job, but that job has to be done internally first before it can be reflected externally. So this Elijah is actually Satan in reverse. He's reversing the process of this world, and it is a painful reversal. Some will never make it. Some will die along the way. Some don't want to leave it. Some go and stop. Some want to make it but don't know how they're going to make it. It is a very painful process. As in the book of Genesis, God says that birth would be painful to the woman. So birth is painful. So being born again is painful, and we can't handle that pain, so we just fall right into whatever is comfortable. If any of you remember the Matrix movie, when the man was actually on the side of the quote unquote good who were fighting for the good, he got tired of it and he went to the satanic side. And he was eating a steak, and he said, I know this steak is not real. I know it's an illusion in words, but it sure is juicy. So after he got into the satanic world, and even Satan realized he couldn't trust him because he was a double crosser, after he got the information that he wanted, he killed him. So we talked about being the walking dead, and that's who we are. We are the walking dead. We are in a world that has died already, dying a natural death, and we are dying along with it. We're talking about the rebellion of the woman. And it's not just the woman, you woman, outside of man, but the woman that has been extracted from the man in order to manifest exactly who and what we are. So the Bible depicts Eve as the originator of sin or rebellion against God. But in actuality, man rebelled against God in his thought. And the woman acted out the rebellion in her actions. So they are both guilty. We are both guilty of going against God. So you see throughout history, Ramesses, Tutankhamun, all of these great pharaohs who said, I can do this without God. You see the 24 scientists who say, we talked about Shabazz, we talked about the scientists who made the moon, wanted everyone to speak a language, and he put dynamite into the earth and blew a piece of the earth off of itself, and one part out there now called moon, and this part called earth. We talked about all of that. And that all came about because of the rebellious thinking of man. So woman is not guilty of biting the apple. Woman is guilty of carrying out the act of the man's thoughts. So we have to both take on that weight of sin and say, God, we admit that we have done wrong and we want to return to you. So in the book of Genesis, the woman did her thing. And then when God questioned Adam, Adam said it was the woman who did it. So they never took on joint responsibility. And because we didn't take on that joint responsibility, we are kicked out of heaven until we learn how to communicate with each other and then in turn communicate with the God that created us. We're talking about ego, the beast within, and I sincerely hope that this information is sinking in. It's very, very, I don't know exactly what word to say, but if we pay close attention, you will find most of your masonry and most of your Shriner and all of that good stuff is right into what we're talking about in this 4-part commentary. So if there's something you want to know, you listen to these commentaries, and I promise you, by God's permission, you'll hear it. So this woman, man and woman, are one. So if we are guilty and we are not saying we are guilty together, then we are separated. But God intends for us to be one. Satan whispered to the woman to separate her from the man. And he was successful in doing that. And that is the example of what's going on in the world today. The woman has the authority. The man is the lapdog. Satan was successful in separating the two parts of man that make up God. Now that man and woman are separated in thought, our children are separated in spirit. So we have children. They see us interact with each other. They grow up, and we talked about how a child mind formed. Then they begin to realize, well, mom and daddy faking. Mom and daddy are liars because they lie about Santa Claus. They lie about the rabbit on Easter. They lie about Halloween. They lie about loving each other. They lie about all of these things. And then they come to me and tell me what I'm supposed to be. So the very spirit of the child is no longer with the parents. And as the book said in Genesis, God was going to make it painful, childbirth. He was going to separate the hearts of the children from the fathers and separate these things from each other because we are liars. As I said in part 1, we lie every day and we convince ourselves that the lie is the truth in order to function on a daily basis. And those of us who can't function in the lie, we smoke weed all day, we drink all day, we pop ecstasy pills all day. We do something to make sure that the illusion stays intact. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions out of Manning, South Carolina, sincerely hoping that you will share this information and continue to visit our website, the19report.weebly.com, and our YouTube website as well, as we will be posting up this information. And I sincerely hope that everyone will take the time to listen to these commentaries and get the information out of it that's being put in. It's not necessarily clear cut, but it's there. So man and woman are in trouble. We've broken up the family unit. We've broken up child from man and woman. All of this because each part wants to do their own thing. Elijah Muhammad said that where there is a no good woman, there is a no good man who made her that way. So today's woman, in acting out man's thoughts, she's acting out exactly what we think. She's no good. The worldly woman is no good. I don't care if you're in the church. I don't care if you're out of the church. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're shouting, hooping, hollering, writing a book, singing a song. I don't care who you are. There is some filth in what you're doing, and because you want success from what you're doing, so you lower your standards to get success. Filth and wrongdoings, we're trying to bring it into heaven, and if we can't bring that in, we don't want to go. So gospel singers now, heels are so high their nose start to bleed, the girls. The men are so feminine that their wrist is broken. The women cleavage is showing so much when they start to jumping, if they're not careful, breasts gonna start to hanging out. We don't know how to separate God and devil anymore in this world. And there's only one that can do that. And Jesus said that he was coming after him. So here, the thoughts of man are being manifested in the woman. We want a freak, we got a freak. And the thoughts of men are no good. In the midst of just about every good deed are the seeds of sin. Some ulterior motive that conjures up the serpent by way of the ego. So in everything that we do, even if it starts out godly, somehow the serpent gets back in and the serpent takes control because we had to do something. You got to dress different. You got to show your behind. You got to show more cleavage. You got to pull your shirt off and show your six pack. You got to get a tattoo. You got to do something controversial to keep yourself in the limelight. So sin is the order of the day, and the ego is manifesting that without malice. The ego is manifesting all of these sins with no concern. Now in Genesis 3:14 through 19, God announces the punishment for the serpent. He announces the punishment for the woman, and then he announces the punishment for the man. Also in the Holy Quran, Surah 7, entitled The Elevated Places, from 7:11 to 18, Allah and Satan are having a conversation. In 7:11, and certainly we created you, it starts, and certainly we created you, then we fashioned you. Then we said to the angels, make obeisance to Adam. So they did obeisance except Iblis. He was not of those who did obeisance. This is the devil. Iblis, Shaitan, all of these are the devil. So man is created. God said the angels are there, and God commands Satan to submit, or Iblis to submit to his creation. He said, Satan don't want to submit. What hindered you so that you did not make obeisance when I commanded you? This is Satan talking. I'm better than that thing you created. Thou hast created me of fire, the ego, while him thou didst create of dust. God talking. Then get from this state. Get from out of the mind state of God. Get from out of the thinking of God, for it does not benefit you to behave proudly therein. Go forth, therefore. Surely you are of the abject ones. Satan said, this is Satan talking to God, because Satan has no authority unless God gives it to him. Listen to what Satan says. Respite me until the day that they are raised up. God says, surely you are of the respited ones. I'll keep my hands off of you. You are the respited ones. Do what you're going to do. Build your world. Make your stand. And we'll see. And this is Satan not being grateful for what God said. Satan says to God, as thou hast caused me to remain disappointed, I will certainly lie in wait for them in thy straight path. Then I will certainly come to them from before them and from behind them and from their right hands and from their left hand side, and thou shalt not find most of them thankful. Satan is saying, I'm going to come from every direction to confuse man and confuse the world that he think he is in. So he think he's in heaven, but he is in hell. I'm going to confuse him so much that you will find not the least bit of them grateful. So if they get something and I take it away from them, you say, God, you did me wrong. God, why you do this to me? Now, I told God he better get it straight. That's how we talk to God now. This is how your major preachers talk to God. Like, God, you go with my plan, nigga, I don't need you. That's how we do. That's just how raw it is. I told God, now you put me in this position. Now you better get me out of it. How in the world? But that's our thinking. But that's satanic. And even Satan got sense enough to bow down to God and ask God's permission to do evil. So in the Quran, in 7:16, Satan is asking God's permission to do evil. And God said, I'll respite you. Do what you're going to do. Then Satan comes back with, I'm going to be in your straight path to screw all of them up. And listen to God's response. Go out of this state despised, driven away. Whoever of them that will follow you, I will certainly fill hell with you all. God is saying, I don't need none of you. I created you. I can do with you. I can do without you. My mercy is my mercy. Now, man, woman, and children are separated by evil inclinations or evil thoughts and suggestions by Satan, who came from the left, he came from the right, he came up, he came down. Even though some of us are more wealthy and prosperous than we've ever been before, the family unit is still in disarray. So out of mercy, God says in Malachi 4:5, we're coming to a close. In Malachi 4:5, God says, behold, I'm going to send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of that great and terrible day of the Lord. He will restore the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to the fathers, so that I will not come and smite the land with a curse. Now remember that in the Bible and in the Quran, I just read that God has announced a curse. He has announced the punishment, right, of what's coming. Now we're in the book of Revelation, where this great dragon is trying to complete the job that the serpent started in Genesis. And it talks about in the book of Revelation how this dragon is standing before the woman, waiting to devour the man seed that is coming from the woman. It talks about the lamb, or it talks about that wise one, that Elijah, being wiser than the elders. He was wiser than the scientists. He was wiser than the dragon. Elijah was wiser than the angels because he was given the choice to submit to God or submit to his own will. And Elijah said, I will submit to God's will. Whatever your will is also my will, God. So I will allow you to be my guide. And wherever you tell me to go, I'll go. Wherever you tell me to stay from, I'll stay from. Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do. Whatever you tell me to eat, I'll eat. Whatever you tell me not to eat, I won't eat. Whatever you say, God, is what I will obey. But man is saying, I'm going to do it my way and then sign God's name at the bottom of the sheet. I'm going to forge God's name onto my way of life. I'm going to take Satan into heaven with me, but when you get there, you will be as the 24 scientists. You will be unable to take the book out of the right hand of God because you are not in one with the thoughts, the minds, the actions, the spirit of the Creator. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions. We are talking about the Beast Within, ego. This is the part 4, the last commentary on the subject. And we're talking about this great one, the Lamb, Elijah, who was able to walk up and take the book out of the hand of the beast or the hand of God, whichever way you want to say it. He was able to take that book, break that seal. And not only was he able to break that seal, but he was able to conquer the churches. The churches. The churches. He was able to understand the churches in the book of Revelations that are mentioned and work them to help him work for God's grace. I know it's kind of confusing on this part, but I really don't know any other way to say it. But look at the churches. And the first one is not Asia. It looks like Asia, but you have to look deeper into it. Look into what man has to conquer within himself in order to be in oneness with God. And then you will begin to understand the difficult road we have to travel back to the Garden of Eden. So difficult that today you will hear a person like myself talking so highly of God, so highly of Elijah, so highly of the goodness of God, and tomorrow you may see me back in the world because I was unable to handle the trials, the tribulations. I picked up the cross, but I couldn't carry it as far as Jesus carried it. I couldn't be crucified on it. I couldn't be the one to say, after being beat up, maligned, and hurt by people, forgive them, God, for they know not what they do. I wanted to retaliate, so I wasn't fit to be in God's kingdom. But Jesus Christ was that example, and a great example he was. And he said that one will come after him that will be even greater than himself. We're talking about the Lamb now, who has broken the seals, who is conquering the churches, who is coming back into a oneness with God. And not only is he doing it, but he is teaching others how to do it. So we have 144,000 who will be among the people who are able to teach the word of God in a way that will break the stranglehold of Satan on the people. And all they have to do, get this, is to hear and obey. All they have to do is to listen and analyze the information and say, wait a minute, this makes a lot of sense. I really don't know who I am. I really have no idea what I was put on this earth to do. So our struggle is internal. We've got to get back together as one. Wife has to get back with the husband. Husband has to get back with God. And we have to get back with our children, or God is going to destroy all of us. You're not in one with your husband just because you allow him to say a few things here and there, and in your mind you're thinking he's not worthy of you. You're not in one, husband, with your wife if in your mind you're thinking she is less than you. You're not in oneness, children, with your father and your mother if you think that what they're trying to teach you is outdated knowledge. It's not outdated knowledge. It is the knowledge of the time and what must be done. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions, sincerely thanking you. That's all I can say. I'm sincerely thanking you for listening to part 4 of this commentary entitled Ego the Beast Within. Part 4 was entitled I will send you Elijah, who will be able to make war with the beast. And now we are fully enlightened as to who is able to make war with the beast. And that Elijah has been among us for many years now. And that truth is being taught. And we have to take advantage of that truth. This is the most painful journey that a person can take, trying to get back into a oneness with the Creator, because we have fallen so far down in the book of when they speak of Jacob's ladder, the angels going up and down the ladder. Those who think they were sufficient in mind, body, and spirit to go back into heaven and were rejected and had to come all the way back down and try again. It's such a difficult process, and most of us, unfortunately, will not make it. But fortunately, the knowledge of God is being given to us through Elijah, and the Lamb is able to break the seal. And if you will read the book of Revelations, not only did the 24 scientists who thought they knew what was best for man eventually bow down to the Lamb, but the dragons bow down as well. Elijah will be successful, and God will be successful, and we have to determine at this time in our lives which path we want to take and begin our long, long journey home to the Creator. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions. Again, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will be teaching part 3 of The Time and What Must Be Done on noi.org/the time. If you would like to catch that broadcast at 6 p.m. on Saturday, every Saturday for 52 weeks, you can go to noi.org/the time, excuse me, Or you can visit our website, the19report.weebly.com, and click on the Ustream site. And to your left of my videos, you will see a flash um, 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 advertisement that you can click on that will take you directly to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's lecture. And like I said before, I know in the South we have no place to put Louis Farrakhan, but we need to find a place to put him because he is necessary. This world is falling apart, and I'm a part of it. I don't know how to get out of it. I don't have the slightest idea how. And I can't talk to you as if though I'm out. I can't talk to you as if though I'm free when I don't create anything. The best that we have, the best scientists, the best people on Facebook that know everything about black people, your 5%ers, your Moors, all of these people that can tell you all of this information, we are using technology from this world. If we are these great gods that we profess to be, why don't we have our own Facebook? Call it God Book. Why don't we have our own internet? Why don't we have our own YouTube? Why aren't we creating our own cameras, our own photo cameras and video cameras? Why don't we have our own doctors we don't have to go through all of this mess to take our children to be examined? Why is everyone being paid by this world if we are these great gods that we profess to be? The scientists also thought that they were the greatest. The 24 scientists in the Bible had to rethink their thoughts and realize that they couldn't break the seal because they didn't fully understand. They only understood the part that was given to them, and the parts had to be put together to make a whole. So man, woman, and children, we have to get back together. We have to make our families units, and this is not easy. Today I'm talking to you, tomorrow I may be divorced, which I am divorced. We just got a lot of problems, a lot of things to work through, but we have to start. And that is the key. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions, sincerely thanking everyone for tuning in to part 4 of Ego, the Beast Within. It has been an honor to work and try to get this message across, and I am grateful. And I sincerely hope that we will begin to share this information more, that more people will be able to hear and understand that the time and what must be done is necessary for us to do better. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions, Minister Louis Farrakhan, Saturday at 6 p.m. If you don't understand what's being said, he's going so far back to bring it back forward, but it will be brought back to 2013 and today and what's being done today and what we have to do as a people. This is not teaching for black people. This is teaching for people. If you will listen to the commentaries, we talked about how man and woman can be saved regardless of the color of your skin. It's what's inside of you that makes the difference, but you're not going to be able to hide that evil and think just because you call God's name, you will be let into the kingdom of heaven. It's happening now. It's on. Brothers and sisters, let's make it happen the right way. I so much want to see it and bear witness to it. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions. Thank you all so much. And leave your questions and comments on either site. It's fine. And if you would like to call in again. Like I said, I will track you if you call with foolishness. Truth is truth. You have to humble yourselves to truth. And you have to be able to bear witness to the truth. And you have to leave alone those who are telling truth if they tell it in the right way. I didn't mention any names. God is the greatest. Thank you again.
Lights,